The Forsaken Lake. The journey east began at first light. Edrick stood in the castle courtyard where 200 cultists had knelt for days, now empty, except for the marks their vigil had left, worn patches in the stone, discarded waterskins, the faint residue of their presence like a stain that wouldn't wash clean. The green light in his chest pulsed steadily, and for the first time since old Ravenhold, he felt something approaching clarity. They felt the change. The Devourer observed, its voice clear but not intrusive in his mind. The moment we established our terms, they knew. They go to confirm what they already believe, that I walk in flesh. Let them confirm it, Edrick said quietly. They'll find we're not what they expect. We shall see. Rose emerged from the castle armory, fully equipped for travel and combat. Her sword hung at her hip, daggers strapped to her thighs, a short bow across her back. She'd barely slept. Edrick could see it in the tension around her eyes, the way her hand kept drifting to her sword hilt as if checking it was still there. "The horses are ready," she said. "Shamaz is gathering supplies. Alluria's studying maps of the eastern territories." She paused, studying his face. "How are you feeling?" "Different," Edrick admitted. "The constant pressure is less. It's still there, but it's not trying to drown me anymore. Because you negotiated with it." Rose's voice was carefully neutral, but he heard the fear beneath. "Because you acknowledged it. Because I accepted reality," Edrick corrected gently. "We're merged, Rose. Fighting that truth doesn't change it, it just exhausts me faster." She looked away, jaw tight. "I know. I understand the logic. Doesn't mean I have to like it. I don't like it either." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "But I'm still me. Still your brother in all the ways that matter. And I need you to trust that I'll tell you if that changes." Rose met his eyes, and he saw the war in her expression. Love and duty, hope and fear, trust, and terrible responsibility. Finally, she nodded. "I'll be watching. Every moment." "I know." He managed a small smile. "I'm counting on it." Shamaz and Alluria joined them in the courtyard, both carrying travel packs and weapons. The old healer looked exhausted but determined, while Alluria moved with her characteristic efficiency, already mentally mapping their route. "The Forsaken Lake is 3 days' ride east," Alluria said, unrolling a map on a nearby stone bench. "Through the thornfields, past the village of Eastmarch, then into the desolation, the barren lands surrounding the lake itself." Her finger traced the route. "The cultists left on foot, but they're moving with purpose. They'll reach the lake in 4 days, maybe 5. "We'll beat them there," Edrick said. "I want to see what they're walking toward before they arrive." "The place where I was first imprisoned," the Devourer mused. "The place where Aldrich divided my essence and scattered it across 7 bloodlines. I wonder what remains of that ancient working." "You've never seen it?" Edrick thought back. "I was fragmented, divided. Each piece experienced only its own imprisonment, its own bloodline. The heart fragment that lived in Aldrich's line, in your line, knew only the darkness of royal flesh and blood. The lake itself? That's a memory from before the division." Shamaz was watching Edrick's face. "You're conversing with it." "Yes." Edrick didn't see the point in hiding it. "It's curious about the lake, claims it hasn't seen the place since before the original binding." "Of course it's curious," Rose muttered, "probably planning how to break free once we get there. If I wanted to break free, I would simply wait for your brother to die of exhaustion from constant warfare. Our coexistence serves my interests as much as his." Edrick repeated the Devourer's words aloud. Rose's expression darkened, but she didn't argue. The logic was sound, even if she hated it. "We should leave now," Alluria said, rolling up the map. "Every hour we delay gives the cultists more time to prepare whatever they're planning." They mounted their horses, 4 riders heading into the rising sun, toward a place that had been forbidden and forgotten for 3,000 years. Captain Torvin watched from the battlements with 50 soldiers, ready to follow if summoned. Commander Aldwin had wanted to send an escort, but Edrick had refused. Speed mattered more than numbers, and a large force would only attract attention. The thornfield stretched before them, golden grain swaying in the morning breeze. Peaceful. Beautiful. Edrick could almost forget the darkness coiled in his chest, the ancient evil that watched through his eyes and whispered in his thoughts. Almost. They rode hard through the morning, covering ground quickly. The thornfields gave way to rougher terrain, Rocky hills, sparse trees, the landscape growing more desolate as they traveled east. By midday, they'd passed through Eastmarch, a small village where frightened faces watched them from windows. Word had spread about the king who carried darkness, about the cultists marching east, about the ancient evil awakening. Edrick didn't stop to reassure them. There was no reassurance to give. As afternoon shadows lengthened, Illyria called for a brief rest near a stream. The horses needed water, and even Edrick's transformed body required some sustenance, though the Devourer's presence meant he needed less food and sleep than before. "Your body is changing," the Devourer observed as Edrick drank from his water skin. "Adapting, becoming more efficient. You'll need less of everything: food, water, rest. Eventually, you'll need almost nothing at all." "Except my humanity," Edrick thought back. "That's non-negotiable." "Of course, we agreed on boundaries." Rose sat nearby, watching him with that constant vigilance. Shamaz was examining something in the distance, a dark smudge on the eastern horizon that hadn't been there before. "Storm clouds," the healer said quietly. "But they're not moving with the wind." Edrick stood, following Shamaz's gaze. The clouds were dark, almost black, and they seemed to pulse with a sickly green light from within. They hung over the eastern horizon like a bruise on the sky. "That's where the lake is," Illyria said, consulting her map. "The Forsaken Lake sits directly beneath those clouds." "The seals," the Devourer said. "They're still there, weakened, but still there. The original binding site maintains some of its power even after 3 millennia. "What kind of power?" Edrick asked aloud. Shamaz turned to him. "You're asking the entity?" "It says the seals at the lake are still active, weakened but present. The place where I was divided cannot easily forget what was done there," the Devourer continued. "Reality itself was altered, bent. The lake became a wound in the world, and wounds remember the blade that made them." "It says the lake is a wound in reality," Edrick translated. "A place where the world was fundamentally changed by the original binding." Rose's hand was on her sword hilt again. "And we're riding straight toward it." "We don't have a choice," Illyria said pragmatically. "The cultists are going there. Whatever they're planning, it involves that place. We need to understand what we're dealing with." They remounted and continued east. The terrain grew increasingly desolate. The grass died away, leaving only bare rock and cracked earth. Trees became twisted, leafless things that clawed at the sky. The air itself felt wrong, heavy and thick, as if they were riding underwater. "The desolation," the Devourer said. "Nothing has grown here for 3,000 years. The land itself rejects life." "Because of what was done here," Edrick said. "Because of what I am. Because an entity like me should not exist in a place like this. Our presence here, then and now, is fundamentally wrong. The world knows it." As the sun began to set, painting the twisted landscape in shades of blood and shadow, they crested a final ridge and saw the Forsaken Lake spread before them. Edrick's breath caught. The lake was massive, stretching for miles in every direction, its waters black as midnight and perfectly still. No wind rippled its surface, no birds flew above it. The dark clouds hung directly overhead, pulsing with that sickly green light, and the lake reflected them perfectly, creating the illusion of an endless void both above and below. But it was the structures that made Edrick's heart pound. 7 massive stone pillars rose from the lake's surface, arranged in a perfect circle around a central island. Each pillar was carved with symbols that glowed faintly, the same symbols that marked the sealing blade, the same language that had been on the original amulet. The pillars were cracked, crumbling, but they still stood, still maintained their ancient geometry. And on the central island, barely visible in the fading light, was a throne. It was carved from black stone, massive and ancient, and it sat empty beneath the pulsing clouds. But even from this distance, Edrick could feel it calling to him, or rather, calling to the thing inside him. "Home," the Devourer whispered, and for the first time since their negotiation, Edrick heard genuine emotion in its voice. Not mockery or patience or curiosity, but something deeper, something that might have been longing. "The throne from your visions," Rose said quietly, "the one you've been seeing in your dreams." Yes, Edrick couldn't look away from it. That's where it happened, where Aldrich divided the Devourer and took the heart fragment into his bloodline. Shamaz was studying the pillars with a scholar's intensity. Those are the binding posts. 7 pillars for 7 bloodlines. They're still active. You can see the symbols glowing, but they're failing. Because 6 of the bloodlines have failed, Illyria said. Only Edrick's line remains. The binding was designed to be maintained by 7 royal houses, and now there's only 1. And now all 7 fragments are reunited in that one bloodline, the Devourer added. In you. The binding has inverted. Instead of my essence scattered across 7 prisons, it's concentrated in one. The pillars don't know what to do with that. Edrick repeated this. Rose's expression grew darker. So what happens when the cultists arrive? When they perform whatever ritual they're planning on that island? They will try to free me, the Devourer said simply. They will attempt to break the binding completely, to separate me from your flesh and let me walk free in the world. Can they do it? Edrick asked. I don't know. The binding is ancient and strange. But with all 7 fragments reunited and concentrated in one vessel, standing at the site of the original working, the rules have changed. Anything might be possible. As darkness fell, they made camp on the ridge overlooking the lake. No fire. They didn't want to announce their presence. They ate cold rations and took turns keeping watch. Though Edrick suspected none of them would sleep much. He sat at the ridge's edge, staring at the throne on the distant island. The green light in his chest pulsed in rhythm with the glow from the pillars, as if recognizing something familiar. You feel it, don't you? The Devourer asked. The pull. The throne calls to both of us. Yes, Edrick admitted, but I'm not going to sit on it. Are you certain? It was made for this, for the moment when vessel and entity stand together at the place of binding. It was Aldrich's contingency, I think, his final failsafe. What do you mean? If the binding ever failed completely, if all fragments were reunited in one host, the throne would serve as a final prison. A place where the vessel could choose to seal themselves away forever, removing both king and monster from the world. Edrick felt cold. You're saying it's a tomb. I'm saying it's an option, one that Aldrick built into his working 3,000 years ago, knowing his descendants might one day face this exact situation. Rose approached, settling beside him. What's it telling you? Edrick explained about the throne's true purpose. Rose was quiet for a long moment. Would that work? She finally asked. Could you seal yourself there? End this? Maybe, Edrick said, but it would mean leaving the kingdom without a king, leaving you all behind, spending eternity in that place, holding the Devourer imprisoned in stone. Like the vessel who sealed himself away, Rose said quietly, the one who became a living statue. Exactly like that, except this time it would be permanent. No waking, no release, just endless consciousness trapped in stone, holding me prisoner forever. It's an option, Edrick said, but not one I'm ready to choose yet. Rose nodded slowly. Good, because I'm not ready to lose you yet either. They sat together in the darkness, watching the throne across the black water. Behind them, Shamaz and Illyria spoke in low voices, planning and theorizing. The green clouds pulsed overhead, and the ancient pillars glowed with fading power. Somewhere to the west, 200 cultists marched steadily toward this place, believing their god would soon walk free. And on a distant throne carved from black stone, an empty seat waited for a king who carried darkness in his chest and had learned to negotiate with ancient evil. Tomorrow, the Devourer said quietly, we will learn what the cultists truly want, and what price they're willing to pay to achieve it. Tomorrow, Edrick agreed, we find out if our coexistence can survive whatever's coming. The green light in his chest pulsed steadily, and in his mind the Devourer settled into patient watchfulness. The 8th lesson had been learned. The terms had been negotiated. But the true test was about to begin, and neither king nor entity knew if they would survive it.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.